Welcome to Chapter 1 of Sociology of Religion. This chapter serves as our foundation for understanding how sociologists approach the study of religion. The title, by the way of introduction, signals that we're establishing the groundwork for everything that follows. Religion is fascinating because it touches virtually every aspect of human social life, from personal beliefs to global conflicts, from family traditions to political movements. As we work through this chapter, I want you to think about your own experiences with religion and how those experiences are fundamentally social in nature. Even the most private, personal, religious moment involves language, concepts, and practices that you've learned from others. This slide captures the essence of what makes the sociology of religion unique. The opening quote, "Religion itself is only in practice," comes from the theologian Yves Congar, and it is crucial for understanding our approach. What does this mean? Religion isn't just a set of abstract beliefs sitting in people's heads. Religion is something people do. When you pray, when you attend services, when you make moral decisions based on religious principles, when you talk about your faith with others, all of these are social actions. The key insight here is that as soon as we do something, we've entered the realm of social action. And that's where sociology comes in. We're not interested in whether religious claims are true or false. We're interested in how people put their beliefs around the sacred into action as they relate to other people. Think about this. Even something as private as personal prayer uses words and concepts you have learned from your religious community. Everything about religion is fundamentally social. Before we dive deeper into theory, I want to hear from you. These discussion questions are designed to help you connect the course material to your own experiences and interests. Why are you taking this course? Maybe it is required, but there might also be genuine curiosity. What specifically about religion interests you? Is it the role of religion in politics? How religions change over time? The relationship between religion and social justice? If you could study any topic related to religion, what would it be? Your answer to this question will help guide how you engage with the material throughout the semester. Keep this in mind as we explore different aspects of religion from a sociological perspective. This slide previews our approach in this textbook. The authors emphasize they're focusing on contemporary developments in the U.S., but with an eye toward globalization. We'll emphasize Western traditions, particularly Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, because they have had the most influence in North America. However, we won't ignore how globalization is bringing religious traditions from all over the world into our increasingly interconnected society. This book addresses what the authors call the big questions in the sociology of religion. These are not questions about theology or whether God exists. They're questions about how religion functions in society, how it changes, how it relates to other social institutions. Now we're getting into the historical foundations of sociology of religion. Every sociological field has its founders, and three names dominate early sociology of religion: Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, and Karl Marx. Notice how each theorist asked different questions about religion. Durkheim saw religion as the glue holding society together. He asked, how does religion maintain social order? How does it create solidarity? His answer, religion performs essential functions for society by creating shared beliefs and collective rituals that bind people together. So let me repeat that. Religion performs essential functions for society by creating shared beliefs and collective rituals that bind people together. Max Weber saw religion differently. He argued that religion could be a vehicle for social change, not just social stability. So his famous work on the Protestant ethic showed how religious ideas can transform economic systems and create new forms of social organization. Karl Marx is often misunderstood when he called religion, quote, the opium of the people. We'll talk about this more later. But Marx saw religion as part of a system of oppression that helped the ruling class maintain control over workers. So he asked the question, how does religion serve economic interest? Georg Simmel also contributed, though he is less well known in religion. Each of these thinkers gave us tools for understanding different aspects of religion in society. So why should we study religion sociologically? Well, this slide highlights the, quote, big questions that drive contemporary sociology of religion. First, we'll examine how gender intersects with religion. How do religions shape gender roles? How have women's movements changed religious institutions? Why are women often more religious than men? Second, we'll look at social class. Do poor people practice religion differently than wealthy people? How do economic factors shape religious participation? Third, ethnicity and religion are deeply intertwined, especially in immigrant communities. How do religious institutions help preserve ethnic identity? How does religious pluralism work in multicultural societies? The secularization debate asks, is religion declining in modern societies, or is it just changing form? This is one of the most contested questions in our field of sociology. We'll also explore new religious movements, how old faiths adapt to novel circumstances, and how technology, especially social media, is transforming religious life. Religion isn't static. It's constantly evolving in response to social change. Now we're diving into what sociologists call the definitional problem. Defining religion turns out to be much harder than you might think. So let's start with Durkheim's famous definition. A religion is a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden. Notice several key elements here. First, religion involves both beliefs and practices. It's not just what you believe, it's what you do. Second, religion focuses on the sacred, which Durkheim defined as things set apart from the ordinary, everyday world. Durkheim contrasts sacred things with profane things. Profane doesn't mean bad, it just means ordinary, everyday, routine. The sacred is special, extraordinary, worthy of reverence. But here's the crucial sociological insight. What makes something sacred? According to Durkheim, society creates sacred things. There's nothing inherently sacred about any object or idea. Instead, communities collectively designate certain things as sacred through their shared beliefs and ritual practices. So think about this with examples from your own experience. What makes a religious text sacred? What makes a particular building a sacred space? It is the collective agreement of the community that makes these things special. This slide presents an alternative definition that synthesizes insights from Weber and other theorists. Religion is the patterning of social relations around a belief in supernatural powers, creating ethical considerations. Notice the emphasis on social relations. Religion organizes how people interact with each other. It's not just about individual belief. It's about how those beliefs create patterns of social behavior. The definition mentions belief in supernatural powers. This is broader than just God. It includes any power beyond the mundane, everyday world. Different religions conceive of these powers differently. And religion creates ethical considerations. It tells us what is right and wrong, how we should act, and what we owe to others. Soteriology refers to beliefs about salvation. What do religions say you must do or not do to be in right relationship with sacred powers? Different religions have very different soteriologies. Theodicy refers to how religions explain evil and suffering. Why do bad things happen? Why do good people suffer while bad people prosper? Every religion must somehow address these questions. Now we're entering the definitional debate between functional and substantive definitions of religion. So this is really more than academic hair splitting. It shapes what we study and how we understand religion. Functional definitions focus on what religion does. What effects does it produce? What functions does it serve? From this perspective, religion is anything that provides meaning, creates community, or helps people deal with ultimate questions. The advantage is this is very inclusive. The disadvantage is it might be too inclusive. Is Marxism a religion? Is fandom a religion? Substantive definitions focus on what religion consists of or contains. What's the substance of religion? Usually this means belief in supernatural beings or forces. The advantage is this gives us clear boundaries. The disadvantage is it might exclude practices that people themselves consider religious. This debate matters because it shapes research. If you use a functional definition, you might study things like civil religion or secular rituals. If you use a substantive definition, you focus more narrowly on traditional religious institutions. So the authors of your text try to find a middle ground, as you will see. Beyond functional and substantive definitions, there are other approaches worth considering. Georg Simmel advocated for formal definitions that focus on religion as a general form or structure that can have different contents. He was less interested in specific beliefs and more interested in the patterns of religious life. Neo-Weberian approaches emphasize verstehende Zoologie, interpretive or understanding sociology. This means we have to understand religion from the perspective of the participants themselves. We can't just impose our definitions. We need to grasp what religion means to believers. This leads to what Swatos calls the situational approach. Religion is what the participant says it is. Well, it seems radical, but it reflects a key sociological insight that religious identity is partly a matter of self-definition. So if someone says, I'm spiritual but not religious, we need to take that seriously and understand what they mean. Clifford Geertz contributed another influential approach, viewing religion as a type of cultural system, a system of symbols that creates powerful motivations and moods in people. From this perspective, religion is part of culture, and we can't fully understand culture without understanding its religious dimensions. Each of these approaches offer different insights. Good sociologists of religion often draw on multiple approaches depending on what they're studying. The situational approach gives us three concrete things to look for when studying religion. First, action orientations. Religions shape how people think and how they believe they ought to act. They provide frameworks for making sense of experience and guidelines for behavior. When we study religion, we ask, what does this religious tradition tell people about how to live? What actions does it encourage or forbid? Second, systems of discourse. Religions create formal, structured ways of talking about the world. They have special vocabularies, particular ways of reasoning, authoritative text. Think about how different it sounds when someone uses religious language versus everyday language. Religious discourse creates a particular way of understanding reality. Third, subjective experience. This is crucial and often overlooked. Religion isn't just external rituals and formal beliefs. It involves personal, felt experiences. People describe feeling God's presence, experiencing transcendence, having moments of spiritual insight. As sociologists, we can't measure these experiences directly, but we can study how people talk about them and how these experiences shape behavior. These three elements, action orientations, discourse systems, and subjective experience, give us concrete tools for studying religion sociologically while respecting its complexity. This slide introduces what the authors call a happy paradox. All religions are true. Wait, what? So this sounds contradictory, doesn't it? If Christianity is true, how can Islam be true? If Buddhism is true, how can Judaism be true? But remember, sociologists do not study whether religious claims are factually true or false. That's not our job. Instead, we study where the religious experiences are real and meaningful to people. So here's what the authors mean. All religions are true in the sense that they provide genuine meaning to people's lives. All religions shape real social behavior. All religions create authentic communities. All religions help people grapple with ultimate questions about life, death, purpose, and morality. This is actually a very practical stance for sociologists. If we say only one religion is true, we'd be doing theology, not sociology. We'd be unable to study other religions fairly. But if we say all religions are true in the sociological sense, they are all real social phenomenon with real consequences, then we can study any religion objectively. So let's tackle one of the most famous and most misunderstood statements about religion. Karl Marx claimed that religion is the opium of the people. So many people interpret this as Marx saying religion is simply a drug that makes people passive and complacent. But let's look at the full context of what Marx actually wrote. Religious distress is at the same time the expression of real distress and the protest against real distress. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, just as it is the spirit of an unspiritualized condition. It is the opium of the people. So notice Marx isn't just dismissing religion as fake or pointless. He's saying religion expresses real suffering. It's the sigh of the oppressed creature. It gives voice to genuine pain and alienation. But, and this is key for Marx, religion also prevents people from addressing the real sources of their suffering, like opium. Opium soothes pain without curing the underlying condition. It gives people illusory happiness rather than actual liberation. Marx believed that in a capitalist society, religion functions ideologically to make exploitation seem natural or divinely ordained. It tells suffering people to accept their lot and wait for reward in heaven rather than fighting for justice on earth. Whether you agree with Marx or not, his analysis raises important questions about religion's relationship to power, inequality, and social change. So what do the authors of your textbook conclude about defining religion? They think Durkheim's definition was groundbreaking and still provides insights, but it doesn't fully capture religion in our contemporary world. Durkheim's definition emphasizes religion's role in creating social integration and shared values. So this was brilliant for understanding how religion functions in small-scale, relatively homogeneous societies, right? But what about our world? So today we live in religiously plural societies. We have multiple religion traditions coexisting. We have people who are spiritual but not religious. We have religious individualism where people pick and choose beliefs. We have religion in the marketplace where religious organizations compete for members. Durkheim's definition emphasizes religion as collective and community-based, but it does not fully capture individual religious experiences and choice. It doesn't account for the role of the participant actor, the individual who interprets, selects, and creates their own religious path. This is why the authors moved toward a more Weberian approach that balances social structure with individual agency. They want to keep Durkheim's insights about religion's social functions while also acknowledging Weber's insights about religious meaning, making an individual choice. Now let's dive into Max Weber's two dimensions of religion. This is a crucial framework for understanding religion sociologically. The first dimension is social relationships. When Weber analyzed religion, he looked at supernatural powers. How do people conceive of and relate to powers beyond the everyday world? Different religions have different conceptions. and charisma. This is a key Weberian concept. Charisma refers to a special gift of grace that certain individuals possess. Charismatic leaders like prophets, saints, or religious founders have extraordinary qualities that cause others to follow them. Charisma is a major source of religious authority and social change. Symbolic expressions. Religions create symbols, rituals, sacred objects. These aren't just decorative, they're ways of making the sacred tangible and accessible. Patterned behavior of lay people. Weber didn't just study religious leaders or texts, he studied how ordinary people practice religion in their daily lives. What do lay people actually do religiously? This social relationship dimension captures how religion organizes people's interactions with the sacred and with each other. Weber's second dimension is ethical considerations. This is about religion's moral dimension, what it tells us about right and wrong. So here's a crucial distinction Weber makes. The ritual and moral aspects of religion are separate. You can follow religious rituals perfectly, going to services, saying prayers, making offerings, without being morally good. Conversely, you can be morally upright without following any religious rituals. Going to church is different from not killing your neighbor, right? One is a ritual behavior, the other is a moral behavior. Within ethics, Weber distinguishes between religious ethics. These are moral decisions based explicitly on religious reasoning. I shouldn't steal because God commands it. I should help the poor people because it's what my faith requires. The justification is religious. Moral prudence. These are decisions about what is in your own self-interest, not based on religious reasoning. I shouldn't steal because I might get caught. I should be nice to people so they'll be nice to me. So this reasoning is practical, not religious. The distinction matters because it helps us understand religious motivation. Are people acting morally because of their religious beliefs or for other reasons? This affects how we understand religion's role in society. Let's go deeper into soteriology and theodicy, two concepts that are central to understanding any religion. Soteriology is about salvation. Every religion addresses the question, what must we do or refrain from doing to be in right relationship with the sacred powers? For Christians, soteriology might involve faith in Christ, baptism, living morally. For Buddhists, it would involve following the Eightfold Path to achieve enlightenment. For Jews, it involves following the Torah and doing mitzvot. Every specific content varies enormously, but every religion has some concept of how to achieve the ultimate good. Theodicy is about explaining evil and suffering. This is what philosophers call the problem of evil. Why do bad things happen? Why do good people suffer while bad people prosper? Why must everyone eventually die? Different religions offer different theodicies. Some involves karma and rebirth. Some emphasize free will and the devil. Some see suffering as divine testing. Some acknowledge mystery and say we can't really fully understand God's plan. Weber argued that how a religion handles theodicy profoundly shapes its entire character. A religion that sees suffering as punishment will create a very different worldview than one that sees suffering as an opportunity for growth. So this brings us to the author's own definitional synthesis, drawing on Donald Swinson's work. So let's unpack this definition carefully. Religion, approached sociologically, can be considered the individual and the social experience of the sacred that is manifested in mythologies, rituals, and ethos, and integrated into a collective such as a community or organization. So notice how this definition integrates insights from multiple theorists. Individual and social experience. This balances Durkheim's emphasis on collective with recognition of personal religious experience. Religion is both social and personal. Experience of the sacred. This keeps the focus on what makes religion distinctive, its orientation toward the sacred, the transcendent, the ultimate. Manifested in mythologies, rituals, and ethos. So, mythologies are the stories and beliefs. Rituals are the practices. Ethos is the moral framework. Together, these three elements capture religion's full scope, integrated into a collective. Even personal religious experience occurs within and is shaped by communities and organizations. Religion is social even when it feels private. This definition manages to be inclusive enough to capture religious diversity while specific enough to distinguish religion from other social phenomena. It acknowledges both structure and agency, both individual and community. Now let's preview what's coming in the rest of the book. This piece helps you see how the pieces fit together. Chapter 2, Ask Why Study Religion. What methods do sociologists use? This is foundational. Before we dive into substantive topics, we need to understand our tools and approaches. Chapter 3 tackles the secularization debate. Is religion declining or changing? This is one of the hottest debates in sociology of religion currently. Chapter 4 examines distinctively American religious patterns, denominationalism, congregationalism, and pluralism. How is American religion different from religion elsewhere? Chapter 5 explores class and religion. How does economic status shape religious participation? How does religion shape economic behavior? And we'll discuss and remember Weber's Protestant ethic. Chapter 6 focuses on ethnicity and religion, especially immigration. How do religious institutions help immigrants maintain ethnic identity? How is American religion being transformed by new immigrants? Each chapter builds on concepts we are establishing in Chapter 1. Chapter 7 examines gender and religion. How do religions shape gender roles? How have feminist movements challenged religious institutions? Why do women participate in religion more than men, even in religions that restrict women's roles? Chapter 8 uses Roman Catholicism as a case study of religious change. How do religious institutions adapt to social change? What happens when tradition conflicts with modernity? The Catholic Church provides a perfect case study because it's both very traditional and undergoing significant change. Chapter 9 is about fundamentalism, both Christian fundamentalism in the U.S. and the fundamentalist movements in other religious traditions. Fundamentalism is a global phenomenon, and understanding it is crucial for understanding contemporary religion and politics. Chapter 10 explores how technology shapes religion. How have mass media, radio, television, and now the internet changed religious life? How do religious organizations use social media? Chapter 11 addresses new religious movements and church-state issues. How do new religions emerge? Why are they controversial? How does the legal system handle religious pluralism? So each of these chapters address contemporary developments, changes happening now that shape American religion. So here are key terms and concepts you should pay attention to as you read and study. Let me highlight a few. Charisma is, remember, this isn't just being charming. In Weber's sense, it's a special gift of grace that causes others to recognize someone as having extraordinary spiritual authority. So jihad, this term is widely misunderstood. In Islam, jihad means a struggle or striving. It includes internal spiritual struggle, not just military conflict. Understanding its actual meaning is crucial for studying Islam. So Sociology and theodicy, we've discussed these. They're analytical tools you can apply to any religion. Fundamentalism, we'll study this in depth later, but start thinking about what makes religious movement fundamentalist. Opium of the people, we discussed Mark's famous phrase, just remember the full context. Action orientation, systems of discourse, subjective experience. These are the three dimensions of religion from the situational approach. All religions are true. Remember what this means sociologically. Moral prudence versus religious ethics. Keep this in mind when analyzing religious behavior. Make flashcards for these terms. Use them as analytical tools, not just vocabulary to memorize. So this is your minute paper assignment for today. So let me explain what I'm asking you to do. Choose any religious organization you're familiar with. It could be your own religious tradition, one you've studied, one you're curious about. Write 5 sentences about soteriology. Remember, soteriology means, what does this religion teach about salvation? What must people do or believe or avoid to be in right relationship with the sacred? For example, if you wrote about Christianity, you might discuss belief in Jesus Christ as Savior, the role of grace versus works, baptism and other sacraments, living a moral life. Different denominations emphasize different elements. If you wrote about Buddhism, you might discuss the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the goal of enlightenment, nirvana, ethical living and meditation, escaping the cycle of rebirth. The goal here is to apply sociological concepts to actual religious traditions. This helps you move from abstract theory to concrete analysis. So you should turn your paper in after you have completed this assignment. This is a low stakes assignment, just checking your understanding. So this ends chapter 1. Here are all the credits. Remember, academic integrity isn't just about avoiding plagiarism. It's about giving credit where credit is due and enabling others to verify and build on your work. You are expected at this level to avoid plagiarism and use academic integrity.